Hello, it's Cindy from the Osterville Library, and I have a very special guest today, Michael Grossman from the COMM Fire Department. He is the Fire Safety Officer with COMM, and he's here today to talk about the Senior Safety Program. So first, Michael, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. So this is a really important program that you offer to residents. Can you tell us exactly what you do?
Yes, so it's a great program. It's actually one of my favorite parts of the job because it's a great interaction with the public, and it's something that we get to go out and do that's just there to help people. It's a program that's partially funded by the state. We'll get into the funding a little bit more. And it's basically just what it says. It's senior safe. It's to go out and make seniors' houses safe. We do a kind of a comprehensive safety check of the house, make sure they have smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, and go through a bunch of safety things in their house that covers anything from cooking safety, electrical hazards, trip hazards, anything like that. And then we'll provide equipment as needed.
Okay. So I mean, so many people live alone in our area here and they have family members off Cape. So what exactly is a residential lockbox?
Yes, so the lockbox is it's a very heavy duty lockbox. It's not a combination one that somebody else could gain access to. It's a heavy duty lockbox. We install it. It's purchased by the homeowner. It's a one-time fee. And we install it. Your key goes inside the lockbox, and then we have a key that gets us into the lockbox to access your key. It's super secure. It's not a safety concern at all. We're the only ones that have the key, and we don't provide access to anyone else.
So that's great if somebody made like a emergency call from their house and their door was locked, or if somebody called from out of state and wanted you to do a safety check, that's when you'd use that type of thing?
Absolutely. Yep. It's not something we would use if there's a fire. If it's a fire, we're not gonna take the time to use a key.
Right.
But for any kind of a medical emergency or someone who hasn't been contacted, or something as simple as a resident locks themselves out of their house, which occasionally happens, they can call us and we will come over and open it. It's a great thing if somebody is inside and can't get to the door because of a medical emergency, a fall, or sick. It really can cut down on the amount of time it takes for us to get to them, and it also minimizes any damage. I try to tell people that are hesitant about it that, us having to force entry one time, we can do more damage than the box costs.
Right.
And then their house isn't secure after that point. So, and it cuts down, a significant amount of time and stress on the homeowner waiting for us to get to them.
Right. So who is eligible for this program?
So anyone that resides in the Centerville-Osterville Marstons Mills Fire District that's 65 and over, and that includes homeowners, renters, tenants, anything like that. You don't have to own the house, and even if the homeowner is under 65 but has a relative that's over 65 or older living with them.
Okay. Now, is there any cost to this?
There is no cost for the program whatsoever. The only cost is if you choose to have the lockbox, which is completely optional. The lockbox is a one-time $55 fee that pays for the lockbox. Other than that, there's absolutely no charge.
Okay, so how is this funded then?
So the initial, when we first started the program, it's funded from a grant that we get every year from the state, and it varies depending on how many other communities or how many other fire districts in the town put in for the grant. But initially when we started the program, it funded a good amount of it. But as the program has grown, we have between 300 and 400 residents in the program now, and the grant doesn't even come close to covering it. So we have in our budget added a significant amount to fund the rest of it so we can keep it going.
Wow. So how long have you been doing this program?
So the grant came out in 2013 and we applied for it then. And so the first houses were done in 2014 and it's grown from there. So we're, we'll be going into our 7th year of the program.
Wow. So is a homeowner limited to like one time a year, or like, if you give them recommendations and then they do those, do you go back and check? Or?
So how it works is when someone calls and says they want to be in the program, we come out during the day during normal business hours, and we'll do an initial visit just to see what they have for equipment, what they're lacking, and what we need to bring with us. And that's usually just like a half-hour consultation. And then we will set up an additional appointment in the evening. We start them at 4:30, usually in the 4:30 to 6:30 window. And, depending on how many alarms they need or how many batteries need to be changed, we'll go from anywhere from a half hour up to an hour appointment. And we come back and install whatever needs to be done. And then you're in our program, and then we come back every year and check everything. And as devices expire, we replace them. There are limitations. We're only allowed to or able to provide battery operated equipment. So people that have hardwired alarms, we'll change the backup batteries in those, give them recommendations if they need to be replaced. But we can only install battery operated devices.
Okay. Now, is there an income limit on this? I mean, do you go to every house in Osterville or?
There's absolutely no income level requirements whatsoever. We don't restrict it based on people's ability to pay or anything like that. We don't ask, and we don't need to know. It's open to everyone.
Okay. Now, do you accept donations on this? If somebody calls you to their house and does this, or is there a way for them to donate?
People can always donate to the department. We don't take any funds in the field, but and we don't expect anything in return. But just like anything else, anyone is always certainly willing to make a donation. It's always accepted.
And I know the important thing is like house numbers. Now where it's dark at like 4:30, I know when you're trying to find something, it's very, very difficult, and that can actually cost a lot of time if people don't have visible numbers on their house that you can actually see.
Correct. Yeah. So in addition to installing smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms, we also have house numbers. So if we go out and evaluate and find that people don't have house numbers that are visible or posted in the right place, we will also provide those and install them for you.
And then what's the medical emergency sheet that you have for people?
Yep, that's the file of life. It comes in. It's a little pouch has a magnetic strip on the back of it, and it just is a convenient place for people to put all of their medical information in one spot. Emergency contact information, any allergies they have, medications they take, medical history. It all goes on this sheet that goes into the pouch, and then they can put it on their refrigerator or in a visible spot. So if they ever have to call 911, that information is easily accessible, and our responders know to look for that when they go into a house. So, people aren't scrambling around trying to find medication bottles or try to remember dosages and things like that.
I know I want to say on that how important that is. And I remember with my mother, I had one of those and it was a lifesaver. No matter how much you're taking care of somebody, when something happens that you need to call or go to the hospital, you get flustered. And it's like just to have a sheet that has the insurance, the pills, the last dosage, this, chemo, whatever, allergies and all that, and just say here instead of trying to think or talk because you're not in the state usually when you need that. So it's really important.
When someone does call 911, it might be the worst day of their life, and to be scrambling around trying to figure all that out, it can be a real help. And we have quite often people ask us, as things change, they've already used up all the space on that. So we always have more of them too. When people, their medications change, their history changes, we can provide, places for them or new files for them.
Well, that sounds like a great program. What else does the Fire Safety Division do?
So along with this, like I said, we come in, we look at the smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, house numbers. We will go over general cooking safety with the occupant, talk about safe practices in the kitchen. We look for trip hazards. People become very attached to things in their house like area rugs, and as they start to maybe have some mobility issues, those can become significant trip hazards. So we go over some of that. Another thing we check that we've just started checking in the last few years is people's dryer vents. We don't check the entire length of it, but we will go outside and look where it terminates outside, and potentially head off any issues if we see a significant buildup, because we certainly have a fair amount of dryer fires that can be contributed to lack of maintenance. So if we see an issue with that, we can make recommendations on cleaning.
I got a question. Do you do this in condos too, or is it just houses?
No, condos, absolutely.
Okay.
We have quite a few people that are in the program. In fact, I was at one last night
Okay.
that are condos. Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like our people to know today before we sign off?
Oh, well, just I can't stress enough the importance of having these devices that we talk about, smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms. And I can tell you, I think there's probably quite a few success stories from people that we have in our program. Smoke alarms, we may never know because they install the alarms and maybe the alarms go off and alert them long before they would ever have to call 911. They leave something on the stove and it alerts them and they never have to call us. But I can tell you that we have installed carbon monoxide alarms in people's houses that didn't have any, and within months they have called us because they're going off. And it ended up being actual. We've had several that have ended up being actual carbon monoxide incidents, and
Wow.
and we'll never know how that might have turned out. Because the carbon monoxide is a real danger. When someone's smoke alarm goes off, they look around and see, I don't see any smoke. Maybe it's a spider or whatever. With the carbon monoxide, you can't tell without having us come out and check. And all too often, a mistake people make is they think it's a false alarm because they don't see anything, they don't smell anything, and you never would with carbon monoxide. So very important. And I can't stress enough about the importance of having carbon monoxide alarms. And they expire and they stop working. And if you have older carbon monoxide alarms and you press that test button and you change your batteries, you think they're working. If they're over 7-10 years old, they are very likely not doing anything, and you wouldn't necessarily have a way of knowing. The newer ones have what's called an end of life signal on them that lets you know when they stop working. But if people seeing this have carbon monoxide alarms that are say were made before 2009, they don't do anything, and it's very important. So that's why this program is great, because it's free. We'll come out, we'll put them up for you.
Okay. So how does somebody get a hold of you?
So they call our business number, which is right here on the screen, 508-790-2375, extension 1. And we will take all your information. Now, a little asterisk to put on that right now is because of the pandemic, our program was shut down basically from March up until about middle October. So right now we're playing catch up. So there's quite a bit of a backlog. So if there are people out there that want to be in the program, I urge you to call, get put on the list, but understand that it might be a bit before we get to you.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great thing to put on people's to-do lists and for families to do for their older relatives in the area for a good, safe way to start off the new year.
Yes. Yep. There's no better time than now to address life safety devices.
That's for sure. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for joining us today. And this is great information, and we really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. And everyone have a healthy and happy holiday season.